I mean, you already saw the title of the video. We're gonna make a thumbnail by MagnatesMedia, which is gonna be this Netflix one, because honestly, it's just insane, and I'll show you how it's done. This tutorial is gonna be in Photoshop, but this also works in Photopea, Gimp, anything else, but Photoshop and Photopea are gonna be the most easiest to follow this with. First of all, let's look at the elements that we need. For this one, we have basically like the explore page of Netflix in the background. Then we have some fire, we have some burn particles on top of the fire, and we obviously have the Netflix logo. So we'll start with the background. And that was actually pretty easy to find. So we'll choose this one and just copy it over. This one actually isn't blurred out, but it's very like darkened. So we'll add brightness contrast, bind it to that layer. By the way, if you don't know how or why we bind stuff to that layer, you should go to my channel and watch this full free thumbnail guide first. And turn brightness like down completely almost. Also add some more contrast. Then the Netflix logo. Just find the highest quality thing you can find. Paste that in there. You can also like download it and not have to do this, but in this case I really just don't care. So we're gonna put this into a smart object so that we can resize it all we want and it's not gonna lose any quality. The shadows are already in the logo itself, but then we have the yellow gradient on the side and the shadow at the bottom and also white at the top. So let's try to replicate that. We're gonna open up the blending options and click on bevel and embers. With these settings, we're gonna have dark at the bottom and light at the top, which is pretty much what we need, but we want it to look different. I'm gonna increase the size a bit, not soften it out, and then we'll add an inner shadow, which is gonna be in a bright yellow. Let's just do no distance, up the size. But now in this case, it's a really bright yellow, and this is not looking very bright at all. Put up the choke to 100. We'll click on OK for this, then right-click the inner shadow, click on Create Layers, select the inner shadow, and only show this real quick. Then we'll get an eraser and just erase some parts. But let's use this one. Okay, so at the top and in the middle, we can remove it completely. And then in the top left corner is kind of where it starts. And it gets less a bit more. So I'm just gonna like erase here and not on the edge itself, because then it would like completely disappear. But we only want to remove some of its opacity. And then down here again, and then we have this middle part that is very bright, something like that. And remove this bottom part, remove this part, and do pretty much the same thing again. And then we end up with something like that. And I actually realized that I kind of made a mistake, because when adding the inner shadow, I accidentally clicked on use global light, or I didn't tick it off, I guess. So it also changed the direction of the bevel and embers, and we don't want that. That's looking pretty good so far. Okay, it's changed some of our settings and this is what we end up with. And honestly, this is a skill issue. I don't know why I wasn't able to add like a dark thing down here. So we're gonna do that with another layer. But this is honestly just a skill issue and I'll look that up after this video. We'll just do like an opacity of, yeah, 47. That actually looks pretty decent. Surprisingly. I'm just gonna group that into the Netflix layer. Group. So now we got that. Here we can see there's a drop shadow, but we'll do that when the fire is added because we don't know how much drop shadow we can add. So let's get some quality fire. Fire overlay. This is honestly going to be the hardest part of this whole tutorial. This one is actually really good, but we need a bigger one. We can try this one. This is full screen, but it doesn't have to matter, honestly. So we'll scale it up a bit, put the blending mode on screen, and that looks pretty decent to me. Now I'm actually going to duplicate this, add a layer mask onto it, and that way we're going to draw up here with more opacity. We're going to draw up here and have the bottom one like more glowy than the top. And then I did the same thing again. So at the bottom we have like full opacity, then we have only the bottom, and then we only have the bottom 2/3. Is that how you say it? And then we need some flames that are overlaying and some fire particles. The fire particle overlay part shouldn't be too hard. We can just drop that on there and then screen. Yep. Let's start out with a black layer mask. So nothing in this layer is being shown. And then we can try to draw in parts where we want to have it overlaying. But for that, we need to find a good part where it fits. For example, this flame right here. And we can see if something up here would also be fitting. This one. I'm pretty happy with how this is going so far. Now their fire is more contrasty, like there's a lot of black parts as well, which we don't have yet. So first of all, let's actually do the drop shadow that we talked about earlier. I'm an honest person, I have no idea what this contour thing does, But if you move it around, sometimes it looks better than the default. This is the default, and then this is... No, it's gone. Basically like this, you can get rid of this middle part, which I really like, but I really just can't explain how this curve exactly works. Okay, let's try to get some more contrast in there. First of all, by just grouping the bottom fire and putting contrast on there. Ooh, yeah. Ooh, yeah. And then we can turn down the brightness a bit, I think, but then actually make the Netflix logo stand out more with an exposure layer without width. Also increase contrast. I'm just thinking how we can make it stand out more, because this one definitely is standing out more. There is also that they have like a tiny bit of a different shadow than we do, literally just with the Netflix thing that I downloaded. We can try replacing it, because obviously we made this a smart object. This one could be good if we scale that one up. Yeah, the shadow is definitely different. Nice. Let's also have it stand out even further by adding another layer below the Netflix. You can also work with putting this on a hard light layer. I don't see the reason why. And I'm going to decrease the opacity of the top layer, the one that's on top of Netflix, just to have like this drop shadow still show through. Let's check for a fireball overlay. I love overlays so much, I think you can tell. We can try this one and put this above the fire layer. Without width. I don't know. Yeah, down here it works well. So that's the process of copying someone else's thumbnail. And I think it worked out pretty well in this case. If you want to learn how you can make thumbnails on your own without any guides, you can watch this guide. Afterwards, you can create thumbnails without a guide. It's a 30-minute long one. It could honestly be a paid course, but it's not. So check it out. It's in the description. And if you have any other thumbnails that you want to have a breakdown of, just let me know in the comments and I'll make a video on it. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.